They underestimated her the moment she stepped onto the dusty county range wearing a sun-faded jacket and an old canvas tote instead of tactical gear. Most of the crowd that morning was made up of off-duty officers, retired military, and a full SWAT team that had shown up for practice. She didn't look like she belonged among them. She didn't brag, didn't pose, didn't announce herself. She simply waited her turn, quiet and patient, the way older folks do when they've lived long enough to know time always circles back. But the range wasn't built on fairness. It was built on ego. Younger shooters elbowed past her. The SWAT captain waved his clipboard and dismissed her with a nod toward the spectator benches. They didn't say she wasn't allowed. They didn't need to. Their smirks said everything. She was too small, too old, too ordinary to matter. And in their world, ordinary wasn't worth a second glance. She walked to the side without argument, settling on a weathered bench while the team took over every lane. They were loud, confident, puffed up by the rhythm of their own shots. Each round echoed across the valley like a show of dominance. But she didn't flinch. She watched with calm interest, studying their stance, their recoil, the subtle impatience in their movements. Years of life had sharpened her observation more than any academy could. A few retired men sitting nearby recognized her. They exchanged quiet nods, the kind only people who've seen real skill understand. She had been around these ranges for decades, long before most of the officers were born. She had taught half the old-timers how to steady their hands, how to breathe through tension instead of forcing their way through it. But she never flaunted that. Humility had always been her quiet armor. The tension broke when the SWAT team attempted a timed precision drill, a long-distance shot meant to test focus under pressure. Their groupings scattered wider than they expected. A few landed clean, but most didn't. They laughed it off, but frustration simmered beneath the surface. They reset targets. They repeated the drill. Same result. Someone on the sidelines whispered that the old lady watching them could probably do better. A few officers chuckled. The captain didn't. He turned, eyes narrowed, and for the first time noticed her steady posture, the unimpressed calm of someone who'd seen countless attempts like theirs. He asked if she wanted a turn, but not out of respect. It was a challenge dressed as kindness, an invitation made only to prove a point. She understood immediately. She had seen that kind of pride her whole life. She rose slowly, brushed dust from her sleeves, and walked toward the one open lane they'd reluctantly granted her. She didn't bring a modern rifle. She didn't bring anything flashy. From her old canvas tote, she lifted a simple, well-kept revolver, one that looked like it carried a lifetime of memories in its metal. A few officers exchanged looks, already predicting failure. But she wasn't shooting for applause or to embarrass them or to reclaim the spot they denied her. She stood there for herself, for the years she spent mastering patience, for every moment she'd been overlooked by people too young to understand what age can teach. She steadied her breath, lifted the revolver with a grace that belonged to muscle memory older than the team itself, and lined up the shot. The range went quiet, the way rooms do when instinct warns that something very different is about to happen. She squeezed the trigger once, only once, and everything changed. The sound of her single shot spread across the range with a strange, crisp finality. It wasn't louder than anyone else's. It wasn't dramatic in volume. It was the silence afterward that made it unforgettable, an immediate, stunned quiet that rippled through every shooter, every spectator, every officer who had dismissed her minutes earlier. At first, no one understood what happened. The SWAT captain lowered his binoculars, blinking hard. A few officers stepped closer to the line, unsure if their eyes were lying. The target, set at a distance so challenging that even they struggled to land clean hits, had a single, perfect hole dead center. not close to center, not impressively near the bullseye, directly through it, a shot so precise it looked like someone had drawn it on with ink. But that wasn't the part that shook them. Behind the bullseye, a second target, one they didn't even realize was partially aligned, had also been pierced. Same hole, same line. One round, two targets, flawless penetration. A trick shot they prided themselves on practicing for months, executed by a woman they had shoved aside without a second thought. She didn't celebrate. She simply lowered the revolver, emptied the chamber with calm hands, and returned the weapon to her tote. The SWAT team scrambled to inspect the targets, circling them with disbelief, searching for signs of ricochet or luck or some impossible explanation. But the truth stared them in the face. Her shot was cleaner than anything they'd produced all morning. A murmur spread through the crowd. One retired officer whispered her name. Quiet, reverent. Stories about her past floated up like dust shaken from old shelves. Some remembered she once competed in precision tournaments. Others recalled she trained younger officers decades ago before budget cuts phased out community instructors. A few had heard rumors that she had been offered a position far beyond the range, something federal, but turned it down when her husband fell ill. Life had taken her down a quieter road, but it hadn't dulled her hands. It had sharpened her patience. The SWAT captain stepped forward, pride folding in on itself. He tried to recover his posture, but the respect he forced into his voice wasn't enough to hide the sting. He asked her, this time genuinely, if she would demonstrate again. She declined with a polite nod and stepped back toward the benches. She didn't need to prove anything twice. Those who understood skill knew a single demonstration carried more weight than 100 attempts. But the moment wasn't over. A rookie from the team, embarrassed by their performance, pushed forward and asked how she did it. The question wasn't meant to undermine her. It was asked with honest confusion, the kind found in someone still learning their place in the world. She studied him for a moment, and then offered a small, simple answer. The shot wasn't about strength or equipment or speed. It was about stillness. Years of learning to quiet the noise around her, noise that most people let drown their aim. The veterans in the crowd nodded silently. The younger officers shifted, realizing they had overlooked more than just a woman at the range. They had overlooked the experience older generations carry, the kind you can't teach with drills or certifications. Then something unexpected happened. One by one, people began offering her their lane. Not out of pity, out of respect. She declined each offer with the same calm smile. She never wanted special treatment. She only wanted the fairness she was denied earlier. As the SWAT team reset their drills with a new humility, she returned to her bench. But the quiet triumph she carried wasn't about beating them or shocking the crowd or proving a point. What she didn't know, what no one knew yet, was that her single perfect shot was about to create a ripple far beyond the Dusty County range. Because the captain wasn't finished, and the consequences of that one round were only beginning. Word of her shot spread fast. The captain approached again, this time humbled, asking if she'd train his entire team. She simply smiled, gathered her tote, and left the range as quietly as she'd arrived. The SWAT officers watched her go, realizing they hadn't witnessed a lucky shot. They'd witnessed a legend.